This is Heidi Burgess. This is an introduction to a set of videos that makes up what we're calling the Business as Usual series. These videos discuss the way conflict resolution professionals and the general public have tended to address intractable conflicts in the past. A number of bad assumptions, we assert, have led to bad behavior, which has created and maintained these conflicts over the long term. The first video looks at people who believe that all you need to do with intractable conflicts is to take the same approach, but do it more or do it better. We will argue that isn't true, that these are fundamentally different kinds of problems that need fundamentally different kinds of answers. The second video is called Boys Will Be Boys, It's Human Nature. But it isn't. We also address the notion that the world is a competitive place and that the only way to win is to beat up the other guy. That's the attitude that's getting us into this hyper-polarized destructive pattern that we're seeing now in the US election and elsewhere. As we suggest in this video, there's another way. The third video is entitled The Blame Game, and it examines our tendency to simplify very complex conflicts by believing and asserting that the entire problem is caused by the other person or the other group. They are the troublemakers, we are the good guys, the right side, the innocent victim. This video illustrates that this is seldom the case. Usually both sides are contributing at least in some way to the intractable conflict situation. The fourth video focuses on power and what we call the power strategy mix. In this video, we explore the difference between sources of power and power strategies, and explain why the overuse of coercive power, which goes hand in hand with extreme competition and the blame game talked about earlier, is usually a losing proposition. It's far better to use a more balanced power strategy, including enticement, represented by the carrot, and compassion and respect, represented by the hug, along with, or instead of, coercion. The notion of power strategy mix was developed by Paul Ware based on work by Ken Boulding, and there's a quote on this slide from Ken Boulding saying that the most powerful form of power is indeed the hug. The fifth video is on rationality and emotions. Emotions and other non-rational thought processes are an inherent part of all conflicts and decision-making processes, but they're often ignored, with people thinking that all conflicts should be handled rationally. At the same time, however, facts do matter. In this video, we explain the metaphor of the elephant and the rider, and then switch metaphors to explain how the relationship between emotions and rationality is well illustrated in Yellowstone National Park. The sixth video is entitled More Bad Assumptions, and it presents several more misconceptions that often plague disputants and third parties in intractable conflicts. These include the notion that facts are facts and the truth can be found and agreed upon, that one's own values are the same as the others or are superior to the others, and they will likely change their values if you convince them effectively. A third assumption is that we are all humans, so we should just get along, and that talk is all we need, and that there's always a win-win solution to all problems. As we explain in this sixth video, the story is much more complicated than that. The seventh video is called The Return of I'll Fight You For It rules, and it looks at an outgrowth of several of the problems described in the earlier videos. It's built on an old cartoon by Jules Pfeiffer that made fun of the notion that you can get what you want by fighting for it, and the most powerful party will win. This video explains how this was seen as a joke when this cartoon appeared in the 60s or 70s, I'm not sure when, but it's seen as increasingly true today. The last video in this series is entitled Recent Peace and Conflict Paradigms. This video takes us through a number of paradigms that have dominated the peace and conflict field starting in the 40s and 50s. These include the simple anti-war, anti-military paradigm, followed by the non-violence paradigm, and the anti-communism and anti-anti-communism paradigms. Then there was principled negotiation and the win-win paradigm, the peace-building paradigm, the military's winning the peace paradigm, herding cats paradigm, and the emerging complexity and systems paradigm. We look at the opportunities and the limits of each of these paradigms, and then we add our own notion of massively parallel peace building, or cultivating peace, and explain how we hope that we will foster that notion and a set of processes that it implies through this moose.